Patricia, you are a beautiful person. Would you go out with me? The one who said this right in front of me was my former boss, Mike Williams. He seems to have some misunderstanding. With a formal attitude, he proposed to my colleague, Patricia. He must be very confident in himself, having demoted me from working at the New York headquarters. He doesn't seem to think he'll be rejected. But his pride will soon be shattered. Do you remember our promise? Rejecting Mike Williams's confession, she said to me, she is actually the president's daughter. Mike Williams, who persistently pursued her and spoke ill of me, would later see hell. Mike Williams's fate was practically sealed. My name is Chris Anderson. I'm a 42-year-old cycling enthusiast. Working at a bicycle sales company is the perfect job for me, who has been riding my beloved bike all around since childhood. To say how much I loved cycling, my mother worried, saying, "Chris is such an active boy, but I worry he might get hurt." However, thanks to my father, who warmly said, "He's a boy. He should play as much as he wants. Let him be free," I continued cycling and made many memories. Currently, I work in the product design department, but a problem has arisen. I'm having a conflict with my boss over the development of a new product. His name is Mike Williams. He became a manager in his 30s, making him a talented individual. Compared to his peers, he is quite capable at work, but his personality isn't great. However, he hides these traits well when dealing with others, so upper management doesn't know his true nature. He demands we develop new products quickly without considering safety or costs, which is problematic. He orders us to prioritize speed over everything else in making products. Naturally, this is impossible. A company that makes vehicles can't neglect safety. If an accident happens and someone gets hurt, it would be terrible. Normally, I'm a negative person who avoids conflict. I don't usually think of opposing my boss. But thinking about our customers, I couldn't back down on this. So, I did my best to persuade Mike Williams. As a result, I was demoted to a remote island. This happened because he deliberately lowered my evaluation and reported it to the higher-ups. Additionally, his connections with upper management also played a part. Reality doesn't always go smoothly. In July, as the temperature steadily rises, I spend my time before work in a daze. Feeling the humidity, I gaze out of the open window meant for ventilation. This place is rich in nature and beautiful, but being in the south, the heat is a drawback. Muttering to myself, I let out a heavy sigh. Even though I'm wearing a short-sleeved shirt, I can't escape the heat. Currently, I am in the design department located in the center of the remote island. After arguing with my boss and getting demoted, I've been working here since this year. Unlike the bustling headquarters in New York where I used to work hard, this place is full of nature and greenery. With the sea a short distance away, it's perfect for those seeking an open atmosphere. If I hadn't been demoted for work, this would be an environment I'd enjoy. However, given the circumstances, I couldn't be positive at all. The quickness of the decision made it seem like I was demoted solely because of Mike Williams. As I continued to mutter grievances, my hated boss's face floated in my mind. I'll never forget the last day I worked at the New York headquarters, when he said goodbye with a big smile. But of course, I don't regret my actions. Product development that ignores safety should never happen. While thinking about this and staring out the window, a female employee spoke to me. "You're sighing again. You'll chase away happiness like that." Her name is Patricia Brown. She is an employee around my age who has worked here for over 20 years. I understand how you feel, but you need to stay positive. Otherwise, you won't notice when good things happen. Even so, it's tough being called useless and unnecessary. Please leave me alone. Honestly, I'm quite negative. I always worry about failing before I even start something. At work, I'm seen as a cautious and serious employee, but in personal life, my personality can be quite annoying. There's no way you're useless. You stood up for what you believed in, right? That means the other person was wrong. Despite my negativity, Patricia always approaches me cheerfully, which I really appreciate. Thank you. Hearing that makes me feel a bit better. When talking to her, my usual pessimistic thoughts seem to fade a little. Smiling, Patricia spoke to me and suddenly exclaimed, "Ah!" Her eyes were on the clock. "It's about time. Let's work hard today." While we were chatting, it became time to start work. I decided to focus on my job to avoid being a burden to my co-workers. A few days later, at lunchtime, I was sitting at my desk, staring at my smartphone and feeling distressed. There are plenty of other great tourist spots. Why come here? Muttering to myself, I slumped over my desk. Just then, Patricia asked, "What's wrong?" I lifted my head and showed her the email I had just received. Patricia read the message, which ended with the threatening words, "You know what will happen if you refuse." Rubbing her eyes with a tired look, she frowned in displeasure. "To be frank, that's a nasty email." "Yeah, actually, it's from the boss who caused my transfer. He's the one who sent this." I had to rephrase it because I couldn't outright say I was demoted, but Patricia seemed to understand. "So, he's the nasty guy who got you demoted?" "Probably someone with connections to the higher-ups. He might have used his influence to push you out here, Chris." "Yes, that's what I heard from colleagues at my previous workplace. Of course, there are many good people here. And aside from the humid summer, the environment is wonderful. So, I like it here. But I'll never forget the resentment I felt when the demotion was decided. It's fine that Mike Williams wants to tour the island's attractions, but I hated that he appointed me as his guide. Even though he dislikes me, why would he do that? He and I never got along. He seemed well aware of this and even told me outright, "We don't seem to get along." Normally, you wouldn't want to be around someone you don't get along with, but sadly, he has more power. Maybe he's the type who likes to bully those he doesn't like using his authority. I explained my speculation to Patricia, hanging my head. She sympathetically patted my head. Being my age, it was embarrassing, but I didn't have the energy to protest. "He's awful. You must have had a tough time at your last job." "Yes, towards the end, we were always arguing. I didn't want to see him, but ignoring him would cause more trouble. Knowing his personality, he would keep sending emails or calling. So, I might have to spend a day with him to satisfy him." Feeling like I might cry, I replied, and then went back to my phone's home screen. It showed a picture of my childhood bike. I had given it to a relative's kid, but I kept the picture as a memory. Patricia noticed the screen and said, "Oh." I couldn't help but look at her. "What's wrong?" "It's nothing." She waved her hand, so I didn't press further. I wondered if there was something strange, but the only thing on my phone was the familiar picture of my bike. Since the break was almost over, I put my phone on silent mode and put it away. As I put my phone in my pocket, Patricia placed her hand on my shoulder. "Well, that day is a holiday, right? I don't have any plans, so I can come along too." "What?" Her words were so unexpected that I let out a silly sound. Seeing my surprised expression, Patricia explained further. "Didn't you hear? I said I'll be there with you. Luckily, as the president's daughter, I've been to all the local tourist spots." Oh right, Patricia was the president's daughter. I had forgotten because it's not something I usually think about, but she is quite well off. Since I'm new here and don't know much about the local area, her help would be valuable. And being alone with that awful boss was something I wanted to avoid, so I was grateful. But was it okay to involve her? While I was pondering, she took charge of the situation. "Now that it's decided, I'll adjust my schedule. Let me know the meeting place once it's set," Patricia cheerfully said and left the spot. Several weeks passed. Finally, the day my former boss was coming arrived. I headed to the station specified by my former boss in his email. When I arrived at the relatively large station on this island, Patricia also showed up. We greeted each other in front of the ticket gate, our meeting place. "Good morning, it's a nice day." It's been raining lately, so it's blindingly bright after a long time. Today's weather was pleasantly sunny, but I felt irritated having to guide my former boss on such a nice day. However, having Patricia with me made it a bit easier. I noticed she was dressed stylishly. Her outfit was coordinated with calm colors, but with bright accessories that were typical of her. "Your outfit, it looks great." "Oh, thanks. On the other hand, Chris, you look a bit too casual, don't you?" "Really?" I looked at my outfit and scratched my head. I had just thrown on some clothes I found at home, a typical shirt and pants. Standing next to her, who was nicely dressed, highlighted my lack of style and laziness, making me feel embarrassed and looked down. But when Patricia laughed and said, "It feels like a date," I couldn't help but be captivated by her brightness. I convinced myself it was just because of the rare sunny day and calmed down. As we made small talk, Mike Williams arrived. "Bringing a woman to greet me, Mutanaga. Is she your girlfriend?" He wasn't wearing his usual suit. He was decked out in designer clothes and a gemstone ring, giving off a wealthy vibe. Comparing myself to him made me feel inferior, but I quickly introduced Patricia. "Mike Williams, this is Patricia Brown. She always helps me at work." "Nice to meet you." Patricia politely bowed and shook hands with Mike Williams. However, he didn't let go of her hand and stared at her intently. Patricia quickly pulled her hand away and stepped back. After finishing his inspection, Mike Williams smirked and spoke to me. "She's a beauty. Is she your girl?" "Nah, no way. Someone like you couldn't land a woman like her." I agreed with him, but it wasn't something to say in front of her. "Patricia can hear you. Is that okay? Don't sweat the details." Then, Mike Williams leaned close to my ear and started making demands. "I want to win her over today, so play matchmaker for me. Got it?" Did he come for sightseeing? To harass me, or for matchmaking? Maybe it was all of the above. Despite my irritation, I had researched local tourist spots for him. This guy probably never considers others' circumstances or feelings. I felt a surge of discomfort, but was too scared to say anything. Then we got in a taxi and started touring the sights. Mike Williams actively engaged in conversation with Patricia. Mike Williams seemed quite taken with her and persistently asked for her contact information. "Patricia, give me your phone number." "I don't usually give it out to people I'm not close with." "Come on, I'm Chris's boss. If you're close with him, you can be close with me too, right?" I couldn't ignore Mike Williams anymore, so I tried to divert his attention from Patricia. But it didn't work. Whenever I spoke to him, he glared at me intensely. Touring the sights in such an atmosphere was exhausting. However, everything has an end, and we headed to our final destination, a lookout known for its beautiful sunsets. It was near the sea, so you could see the sun disappearing over the horizon. It was evening, so we got to see the sunset in all its glory. "Wow, it's so beautiful. I haven't been here much, so it feels fresh." Patricia, illuminated by the sunset, was even more beautiful. I thought this, but couldn't bring myself to say something so cliched. I could only respond with some safe, non-committal words. "Yes, it's a great place with a lot to see. And it's a perfect setting to meet a romantic partner." Patricia said this while gazing at the sunset, and I thought it was a romantic way to think. It will surely be a wonderful memory. Patricia sighed in admiration as she looked at the scenery. Mike Williams then spoke to her. He might have misunderstood something. He probably thought her previous words indicated interest. With a confident expression, he confessed to her. "Patricia, you are a beautiful person. Would you go out with me?" He spoke formally, not expecting to be rejected. Patricia widened her eyes in surprise at his words. Realizing her words had been misunderstood, she looked awkward. "I'm sorry, but I can't go out with you." Hearing Patricia's response, Mike Williams looked back and forth between her and me. He seemed to reach some conclusion in his mind, and his face turned as red as the setting sun. Do you like Chris? Impossible. What's so great about this useless, incompetent guy? He's always criticizing my opinions and doesn't know how to respect others. Mike Williams, pointing at me, spewed insults emotionally. Patricia sighed at his words. He's not useless at all. He's very competent, much more than someone who looks down on others like you. What did you say? Chris told me. You argued about the product, right? Is prioritizing safety over speed so strange? Chris voiced his opinion because he genuinely cares about the important items our customers use daily. Hearing this, Mike Williams glared at us and pushed me. Caught off guard, I fell to the ground. Patricia hurriedly came over to me. Are you okay? Yeah, just landed on my butt. Grabbing her outstretched hand to stand up, I felt a bit pathetic. I wish I had the courage to stand up to Mike Williams boldly at times like this. Seeing Mike Williams standing in front of me, I was paralyzed with fear. What a pathetic man I am. While I was feeling conflicted, Patricia and Mike Williams continued their conversation. Mike, do you know, thanks to the bikes Chris designed, our branch's sales reached an all-time high. He understood the local climate and needs perfectly. That can't be true. He can't interact with people properly, so there's no way he could do that. Mike Williams shook his head violently, repeatedly denying it, unable to believe it. It's impossible for someone as clueless as him to be praised, Patricia. You're being deceived. He ended up calling me a liar. In his rage, Mike Williams grabbed Patricia's arm to pull her away from me. Let's go. You shouldn't be near someone like him. I hurried to get between them, but the next moment Patricia said something shocking. Stop it. I've been wondering whether to say this, but the truth is, we're dating, so please don't separate us. Patricia then entwined her arm with mine, making my mind go blank. On top of that, she blushed and said something that left me utterly confused. Do you remember our promise? As she spoke, she seemed unusually nervous. I couldn't think of anything and just stared at Patricia's face. What? A promise? Oh, you don't remember. It was important to me. Mike Williams, who had been watching the scene, seemed equally stunned. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then, Mike Williams kicked the nearby wall with force. He seemed very angry. That guy is probably useless, but I'll check out the store tomorrow. If it's a lie, you'll pay. With that, he left. Afterward, we also left the lookout point. Patricia's statement that we were dating was probably just a lie. She must have been irritated by Mike Williams' actions and said it on impulse. So, we parted ways that day with a normal attitude. Up until the moment we exchanged farewells at the nearest station, we had just made small talk. So it must have been a lie. Speaking of which, Mike Williams is supposed to visit the store tomorrow, and Patricia's father is also coming. Patricia said she wants to talk with her father since it's been a while since they last met. Given her father's position, they probably don't get to see each other often. The next day, I visited the cycle shop on the island. I wanted to check how the new products released this month were selling. As I entered the store, a male staff member came out to assist me. The sales of the newly released products are doing okay. Since it rains a lot on this island, products that don't rust are appreciated. But it takes time to see their effectiveness, so we need to focus on customer feedback going forward. It seems the sales are fine. However, it will take time for customers to appreciate the benefits of the new products. I then inquired about the sales of other products. Patricia also came to the store, but was waiting at the back entrance for a certain man to arrive. In a large company, other employees would handle this, but our branch is small. So, even though I design products, I also have to keep an eye on the store's condition. After talking with the staff for about 30 minutes, Mike Williams arrived. What a tiny store. It's nothing compared to the cycle shop near headquarters. Mike Williams sneered as he kicked a nearby bike. The male staff member, angered by his rough behavior, spoke up. Sir, Our valuable products could get damaged. Please stop. Who cares if 1 or 2 bikes on this small island get wrecked? Don't be so fussy. Mike Williams retorted, lighting a cigarette right there. Despite the no smoking signs clearly posted on the walls, he ignored them. I didn't want to let him continue his behavior unchecked. As I watched him nonchalantly smoking and walking around the store, I glanced toward the back of the store. There was the back entrance. Patricia had mentioned her father yesterday, so if timing was right, he might show up. Just then, Patricia emerged from the back. I've been hearing voices. Did Mike just arrive? Yes, just a moment ago. Patricia's expression hardened when she saw Mike Williams smoking. She was clearly fed up and walked over to snatch the cigarette from him. This store is non-smoking. Don't smoke here. She put out the cigarette with a spray bottle for cleaning and threw away the butt. Mike Williams, shocked by Patricia's actions, stared at her in disbelief. He probably never experienced such treatment from someone before. However, he quickly recovered and spoke to her. Don't hang around with this loser. Be my girl. Let's live in the city. This island with nothing but nature and tourist spots must be boring, right? It must be awful to work with such a dull guy. Patricia, hearing his condescending words, glared at him and responded. I already told you, I'm not interested in a man like you. If I were to marry, I'd choose Chris. This guy once was bad enough, but twice. Having his proposal rejected again, his anger reached its peak. He gave Patricia a sharp, piercing look. This woman is getting cocky. I was being generous by showing interest in her. Saying this, Mike Williams raised his arm. In his humiliation, Mike Williams seemed ready to hit Patricia. I rushed to protect her, but it wasn't necessary. Patricia's father appeared at that moment. Patricia, you said you'd wait at the back entrance. I traveled for hours from the city. Dad? The unexpected arrival of a third party stopped Mike Williams in his tracks. Seeing the man's face, Mike Williams turned pale. So, he's the manager of the product design department at headquarters. I heard he was here for sightseeing, but I didn't expect to meet him here. His name is James Brown, the president of the company I work for. He is Patricia's father, but lives apart from her now. Today, he happened to visit the island to check things out. Realizing the man was the president, Mike Williams's body shook as he stammered. Why is the president here? This is the store where my daughter works. Of course, I care about it. Daughter. Mike Williams looked at Patricia in shock. Ignoring his gaze, Patricia protested to her father with an embarrassed expression. I've told you not to say that. I want people to see me as just Patricia Brown. I don't want to be treated differently because my father is the president. I apologize, but I thought it was necessary this time. The president, looking as uncomfortable as his daughter, explained. Patricia seemed to understand that to deal with the persistent Mike Williams, the authority of both her father and the president was needed. Mike Williams quickly apologized. I am deeply sorry. I didn't know she was your daughter. It's not just because she's my daughter. What you were about to do is unacceptable behavior towards anyone. You are absolutely right. I have no excuse. Mike Williams, with a face paler than I'd ever seen, bowed deeply. Seeing him desperately apologize, I felt a sense of relief. The president continued speaking, observing Mike Williams's demeanor. Oh, by the way, Mike Williams, I wanted to tell you something. I heard from Patricia that you called Chris useless. I might have exaggerated a bit. He's trying his best, and I just misspoke. Mike Williams stammered, his eyes darting around nervously. In contrast, the president looked him straight in the eye. Chris here has achieved remarkable results on this island. He's only been here a few months, but the branch manager praised him highly. Right after his transfer was decided, he researched the island's climate and created design patterns before leaving the city. He did that. Mike Williams looked at me in shock, his emotions plainly visible. It was clear he found it hard to believe. To quickly adapt after being treated like that is commendable. Chris is truly exceptional. That's why this branch's sales reached an all-time high. No way, it can't be. Mike Williams's disbelief was evident, but his expression began to change. As he listened to the president's calm voice, Patricia then took the opportunity to speak about me. Chris is excellent at understanding what people need and want. He also thoroughly considered safety. That's why no one opposed making bicycles based on his designs. The president nodded firmly and then said, "Mike Williams, don't you have something to say to Chris?" Mike Williams looked at me and apologized. "I'm sorry, it seems I misunderstood you." "It's okay, as long as you apologized." Though I had many thoughts, I decided to let it go since he apologized despite using underhanded tactics to demote me. Afterward, I returned to the office and finished my work until the end of the day. Normally, I would go straight home, but for some reason, I ended up going to dinner with Patricia and her father. "Chris, my dad and I are having dinner at a restaurant today. You're coming too, right?" When she asked, my tired brain reflexively answered, "Yes." So, after leaving the office, I headed to a fairly well-known restaurant on the island with Patricia. Meeting the president in front of the restaurant, I tried to back out, but Patricia was unusually insistent, so I ended up going in. Since the president was paying, I didn't have to worry about the bill, but I felt nervous in a different way. It's rare for me to talk to the president or have dinner with a woman. As I nervously ate the food brought to us, the president started to speak. "So, Chris, how's my daughter doing? She's a bit meddlesome and can be annoying to others. I hope she's not bothering you." Seeing him show concern as a father eased my nerves a bit. Thinking of him as just a father and not a company president made it easier to handle the situation. "Not at all. She's always supporting me at work. She was a huge help yesterday." Hearing my response, the president smiled with satisfaction and glanced at his daughter, who was quietly eating. Patricia, with her good upbringing, didn't talk while eating. The president, smiling at his daughter, then changed the topic to Patricia's love life. Patricia here is very devoted. She's cherished her first love since she was a child. The boy she liked was about her age and loved riding his bike. I didn't think much of it and just said, "Is that so?" But it seemed to be a bombshell for Patricia. "Dad, don't say unnecessary things. If anyone should talk, it should be me." She interrupted her father, looking flustered. What started as a tense evening turned out to be enjoyable. The food was delicious, and I thought I'd like to come back again if I had the chance. 2 hours later, as we left the restaurant, I decided to walk Patricia home. The president, staying at a hotel, took a taxi back. However, the president made sure to ask me to take care of his daughter. He probably meant for me to watch out for her on the way home. Since he asked me so earnestly, I couldn't let Patricia go home alone, so I accompanied her. We took the train and got off at the station near her house. After walking a few minutes, we arrived at our destination. But when we reached Patricia's house, we saw someone standing at the front door. "Patricia, it looks like someone is in front of your house. Did the president say he was coming here?" "What? No, he didn't mention anything like that." As I squinted to see better, I realized it was Mike Williams. Had he been following us since we left the company? The thought made a chill run down my spine. I took out my phone and immediately called the police. Showing up at her house was clearly not normal behavior. To avoid getting caught up in any unnecessary trouble, I thought it best to stay away. I was about to suggest to Patricia that we should leave when. However, it seemed he noticed us first. Mike Williams quickly approached us with long strides. When he saw us together, his expression changed visibly, even in the dark. "You really prefer this loser. What's so good about this unreliable guy?" "Choose me. It's the obvious choice." I rose quickly through the ranks at headquarters. "I have potential, and I'm good at my job." Shouting loudly, Mike Williams reached to grab Patricia's arm, but I stepped in between them and stopped him. Gathering all my courage, I glared at him as best as I could. Patricia, quick-witted, took a deep breath and shouted, "The house is on fire." Immediately, several lights turned on in the nearby houses. Mistaking it for a fire, people came out to check the situation. Realizing that causing a scene could lead to trouble, Mike Williams, sweating and pale, fled the scene. "No matter how many times you're reborn, I'd never choose you. Don't ever speak to me again," Patricia shouted at his retreating back. Patricia seemed very brave. After that, we apologized to the neighbors and explained the situation to the police who had arrived. The police gave Mike Williams a stern warning. Because of that incident, he never approached us again. The following Monday, Patricia handed me some homemade sweets when I arrived at the office. She seemed very concerned about what happened the previous day. "Thank you for yesterday. I wasn't scared because you were there. Don't worry about it. I was just doing what the president asked me to do." Feeling awkward since I didn't think I had done anything significant, I averted my gaze. Patricia smiled gently and brought up the past. "Do you remember, Chris, when we were little?" "What?" I tilted my head, having no recollection of what she was talking about. She gave a sad smile. I felt bad for making her sad, but nothing came to mind. "Don't worry about it. It's understandable. It was before we even started elementary school." She smiled wryly and continued, "Actually, I live here now, but I used to live in the city. Many years ago, she lived with her father. Having recently lost her mother to illness and not getting much attention from her father, she felt very lonely. During that time, she met a boy at a nearby park and played with him. That boy turned out to be me. It was only for a few months, but she remembered it vividly. However, back then, Patricia dressed like a boy, so people often mistook her gender. Trying hard to recall those days, I vaguely remembered playing with a kid like that. That's why I couldn't remember. One day while playing in the park, Patricia got hurt. I apparently carried her home when she couldn't walk, leaving my precious bicycle behind. The sunset was beautiful that day, and it felt so romantic. Because you helped me, I thought you were my destined person," she said, her voice touching on the memory deeply. "Loving romantic things," she apparently said to me. "Make me your bride." I don't remember how I responded, but thinking she was a boy, I must have given a casual reply. I felt a bit sorry about that. When I saw the background on your phone, I realized that bike. I remembered seeing it a long time ago. After finishing her story, she mischievously smiled and said to me, "So, you have to keep your promise, right?" I was at a loss for how to respond, overwhelmed by this revelation. "Well, can you give me some time to think about it?" I stammered, unable to come up with anything better. After that, we returned to our normal routine at work, but it wasn't the same for Mike Williams. At headquarters, he got a severe reprimand from the president for his behavior at the branch and for waiting for Patricia at her house. We had reported the incident to the president, so it couldn't be avoided. As a result, Mike Williams was suspended. If only I hadn't gotten involved with Chris. Dealing with that guy brought all this trouble. He's a jinx. This is what Mike Williams reportedly said to those around him regarding his suspension. His lack of remorse was evident. Word of his comments reached the president. He was then fired and left the company. I heard that he became a recluse, staying inside his house. A few months later, I started dating Patricia. I didn't dislike her, and being with her was enjoyable. She was always proactive and helped me a lot, so I thought we were a good match. I've been wondering, why me? Well, it started when you worried more about my injury than your precious bike. Also, you're brave when it counts. You understand when to step up. That's why I trust you. It seemed she wanted someone she could trust as a partner. I felt a bit embarrassed because I was just doing what I thought was normal. There were also some changes at work. We have a new employee in the product design department. So, how's the new guy who's been transferred here? Unlike you, he wasn't demoted and seems full of enthusiasm. Yeah, he's been really helpful and is doing a great job. He's a young man in his 20s with a lot of potential. I'm in the process of teaching him various things. What's he like? Unlike me, he's very outspoken and makes decisive decisions. He's positive. Because of our opposite personalities, it can be a bit challenging. Honestly, I feel some inferiority, and there are times we don't quite get along. But, unlike Mike Williams, I don't want to exclude him just because we don't see eye to eye. I respect personality and beliefs of others in every relationship.